Welcome back. All right, so we're going to talk about the Philadelphia Flyers and their history today as I continue the team history videos, the updated look, the 2022 version. The Philadelphia Flyers, a team that have kept the pretty darn near the exact same look and feel for their jerseys the whole way through. The logo's never changed, and consistency is a good thing. Now, the consistency on the ice has been a problem the last little while. They did break their own pattern. We'll get into that. This year broke their pattern. We'll see what kind of a new pattern shows up. But their all-time leading scorer is still Bobby Clarke, and it's going to be their all-time leading scorer for quite some time. The next highest-ranked Philadelphia Flyer in terms of points is Sean Couturier, who has, I think, 430 all-time points as a Flyer. So Bobby Clarke's record is safe for probably quite some time. 1,144 games played, 358 goals, 852 assists, 1,218 points. Big point producer, of course, for their 2 Stanley Cups. Claude Giroux ends up playing an even 1,000 games before his trade to Florida. 291 goals, 609 assists. So he also had exactly 900 points as a Flyer before the trade to Florida. So that's kind of nice. Bill Barber plays 903 games in his career, 420 goals, 463 assists, 883 points for him. Brian Propp, 790 games played, 369 goals, 480 assists, 849 points for Propp. Rick McLeish plays 741 games for the Flyers, 328 goals, 369 assists, and 697 points. Eric Lindros, 486 games played, 290 goals, 369 assists, 659 points. And of course, Lindros, it's a shame he didn't play longer in Philly, but that divorce, that was one of those ugly ones. Talked about that in a video a couple weeks ago. Tim Kerr, 601 games played, 363 goals, 287 assists, 650 points for Kerr. John LeClair, 649 games played, 333 goals, 310 assists, 643 points for LeClair. Mark Recchi, 602 games played, 232 goals, 395 assists, 627 points. And Jacob Voracek, 727 games played with the Flyers, 177 goals, 427 assists, 604 points. So a lot of points there. Some pretty big names there as well for the Flyers. They've had their share of superstars over the last 50 plus years. Ron Hextall's still the all-time wins leader. He's going to be there for quite some time, too. 240 wins for him. Bernie Parent has 231. Mason, 104. It'll surprise people a bit, I would think, that Mason's on there as the number 3 guy. And then Wayne Stevenson had 93. Roman Ječmanek and Bob Froese both had 92. So they were tied for 5th on the board. And, yeah, I mean, goaltending has been an issue for them in recent seasons. That being said, I do think Carter Hart can bounce back and become the kind of goaltender that eventually gets on this board and at least ends up 3rd on the list. Their retired numbers, not a ton, considering the success this team's had over its 50-plus years. Bernie Parent's number 1, Mark Howe's number 2, Barry Ashby's number 4, Bill Barber's number 7, Bobby Clarke's number 16, Eric Lindros's number 88. Claude Giroux's 28, though likely to get retired once his career is done. We'll see whether or not any other current Flyers warrant jersey retirement, or maybe a former Flyer ends up getting their jersey retired at some point soon. Playoffs. Since 2000. In 2000, they lose the conference final against New Jersey in 7. In 2001, they lost in the first round against Buffalo. That was in 6. 2002, they lost in the first round against Ottawa. That was in 5. 2003, they lost in the second round against Ottawa, so it's Ottawa back-to-back years. That was in 6. 2004, they lose the conference final. It takes 7 games for Tampa Bay to eliminate them. 2006, so of course 2005, the lockout took out that season. 2006, they're still in the playoffs. They lose round 1 against Buffalo in 6. They don't make the playoffs in 07, so in 08, they lose the conference final against Pittsburgh in 5. 2009, they lose in the first round against Pittsburgh in 6. 2010, they lost in the final against Chicago in 6. That, of course, was a remarkable run by a Philadelphia Flyer team that I think was 17th or 18th overall in the standings that year. 2011, they lost in the second round against Boston in 4 straight. And, of course, the notable thing was that was the year after they'd been down 3-0 against Boston and won all 4 games to knock them out. 2012, They lose in the second round against New Jersey. That was in 5. 2014, they lost in the first round against the Rangers. That was in 7. 2016, so every other year they're in the playoffs now. They lost the first round against Washington in 6. 2018, they lose in the first round in 6 against Pittsburgh. And 2020, they lost in the second round in 7 against the New York Islanders. And what's interesting again is that 2022, they don't follow that pattern. They have been making it every other year since 2014. And so 2022 breaks that pattern as they haven't made the playoffs now in back-to-back seasons. Their Stanley Cup years, 1974 and 1975, becoming more and more of a distant memory. And so for the Flyers and their fans, the question becomes, is this team going to build up to becoming a contender and maybe a Stanley Cup champion? We'll see. Their arena has been Wells Fargo Center since 1997. Again, the name of the building is going to change here and there, but they're in the same building since 1997. Their coaching history, they have had 22 coaches in their history. Keith Allen was the original coach, 51, 67, and 32 record. This year, of course, we will see the debut of Jordan Tortorella behind the bench after Mike Yo's less than stellar record as he came in as a replacement, as an interim coach, and Tortorella looking to get them back in the playoffs and start a new pattern of playoffs this coming season. The first goal scored in the history of the Philadelphia Flyers was by Bill Sutherland at 10:07 of the second period in a 5-1 loss against Oakland. Yeah, one of those rare wins for the Oakland Seals. Most recent goal, Owen Tippett at 12:33 of the third period in a 4-2 loss against the Ottawa Senators. So a rough end to what was a very rough season for the Philadelphia Flyers. Their all-time penalty minutes leader is Rick Tocchet with 1,815. That's pretty safe. Your season records, Reggie Leach had 61 goals in 75-76. They went back to the final that year, did not win it. Your assist leader all-time, Bobby Clarke, 89 assists in both 74-75 and 75-76. Points, Mark Recchi with 123 in 92-93. Penalty minutes, Dave Schultz, 472 penalty minutes in 74-75. He does predate the time that I watched hockey, so I didn't see him play. That number of penalty minutes, combined with the reputation Philadelphia had, the whole Broad Street Bullies thing, it tells you how tough he was and how tough that team was. Wins, Bernie Parent with 47 wins in 73-74 is still the all-time leader. And then we get into the draft pick side of things. Their best draft picks, back in 1983, they draft 121st overall. They get Rick Tocchet. 1993, drafting 71st overall, they get Vinny Prospal. Drafting 55th overall in 1972, they get Al McAdam. Drafting 161st overall in 1983, they draft Pelle Eklund. Drafting 189th overall in 1985, they draft Gord Murphy, who would play over 800 games in his NHL career. Drafted 119th overall in 1982 is Ron Hextall, who went on to have a pretty good career. Drafting 135th overall in 1977, they drafted Pete Peters, who also went on to have a very good career as a goaltender. Number 125 in 1974 was Reggie Lemelin, another good goalie, and drafted 218th in 1994, Johan Hedberg. So they're very good at finding goaltenders late in the draft. Their goaltending history is an interesting one, so yeah, there you go. First round draft picks that played less than 100 games in the National Hockey League. Drafted 6th overall in 1969 was Bob Courier. He played 0 games in the National Hockey League. Drafted 17th in 1976. Mark Souzer, 64 games played for him in his NHL career. Drafted 14th overall in 1978, Danny Lucas played 6 games in the National Hockey League. Drafted 21st overall in 1980 was Mike Stothers. He would play 30 games in the National Hockey League. Drafted 16th overall in 1981 was Steve Smith. Not that Steve Smith. There were 2 Steve Smiths. He was a defenseman too. 17 games played by Steve Smith at the NHL level. Number 21 overall in 1985 was Glenn Seabrook. He plays a grand total of 19 games in the National Hockey League. Drafted 15th overall in 1992 is Jason Bowen. He would play 77 games in the NHL. Drafted 7th overall that same 1992 draft class, Ryan Sittler played 0 games in the NHL. They figured with the name Sittler, maybe he didn't end up making it to the NHL. Drafted 22nd overall in 1999, Maxime Ouellette plays 12 games in the NHL. Drafted 11th overall in 2013, Samuel Morin, who is, of course, done in the NHL. Injury takes him out. He plays grand total of 29 games. Drafted 22nd overall in 2016, and this is kind of recent, but I think we can assume he won't play 100 NHL games, and that's German Rubtsov, who has played 4 games in the NHL to this point. I don't think he's going to end up in the NHL, but maybe now that he's on the board here, it happens. He plays 150-some games, and then people can go back a couple years from now and go, hey, he did play 100 games in the NHL. It does happen. All right, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happen upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.